Hey there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Levitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, go ahead and use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You can also check out the website at refreshcomputers.net or stop at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. It means if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, for David Levitt and Adam Littlefield.
All right. Thanks, Greg, and thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. Oh, we got a lot of nice, cool stuff to talk about today. A lot of nerdy stuff, too.
Oh, yeah, like every show.
That's right. So, we hope that this kind of inspires your inner nerd, right? And because these are some things that you don't typically hear about on a radio show anywhere, really, except right here at Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. Today, we're going to be talking about, this is Apple's big week. It doesn't seem like it's been a year since we talked about this last.
It doesn't seem like it. No, not at all.
This is the Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, basically the software side of what's coming at Apple. We're going to talk about all those cool things that they're planning to implement in their latest gadgets coming September. So that'll be an interesting topic. And then we're going to talk about, well, is your computer AI ready? Then you'll be surprised, maybe, by what we have to say about that. And then we'll be talking about your electric bills keep climbing in Florida. Why? AI data centers have a lot to do with that. Mm-hmm. And we'll be talking about that and getting deeper into, are they really using all that water people are afraid of? No, they're not, by the way. And we'll get more into that as well. And then we'll also be talking about, at the end, a really cool Windows tip that you may not be aware of. It's a copy and paste superpower that comes with your Windows.
Mm-hmm. Built right in, and it's not even
hardly ever used. There. Yes. So I think a lot of us know Control C. We're going to get into Windows C.
Yep.
All right. Towards the end of the show. So starting off, Adam, it's a big week for Apple.
It is.
So they are kicking off their Worldwide Developers Conference, and what they do is, they talk about all the latest operating systems.
Right. All the updates that are coming out, maybe all the new features that they're implementing. But, we've talked on the show a lot about Siri specifically and what's been going on with her. And I haven't seen much movement since the last time we brought her up.
Well, we did talk about Google and, kind of getting attached to Siri.
Right.
There's a big deal that Apple's doing. When we talked about how weird that seemed because, they're big competitors.
Right.
Right. So, of course, Apple makes the iPhone. Mm-hmm. Google makes the Android phone.
Yeah.
So, but they're all going to be using Google's Android or Google's AI, I should say, inside the Apple phones and which they've been playing with, they've been kind of using, and which is probably, a good thing.
Yeah.
Right, for Apple and for you if you own a iPhone, because it's like, Siri is finally getting an AI brain, which it really hasn't had.
It took long enough for Siri because, right now, as far as I'm aware, or at least the last time I ever used an iPhone, Siri wasn't capable of much compared to some of these AIs now, like Grok, Gemini, things like that. So it's nice to see Apple's doing this, but again, we talked about this, I think, almost a year ago.
Jeez, it's been a year, I think.
Yeah.
And how Apple was in the catch-up game back then as far as AI is concerned because, with Siri, it was basically, hey, Siri, set a timer.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and it's basically a one-way thing, and Siri would come back with a response. Not exactly a conversation mode.
Right.
Which is what you really need with AI built in. So, but now you should be able to say, hey, Siri, find the text from my daughter about Saturday and add it to my calendar.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, folks, all of you people that own iPhones who just got a text or who just had Siri look up a text, I should say, on your phone. So we'll try to refrain from saying, hey, that again. But it's so much fun doing this show, I tell you. So the twist is Apple is reportedly leaning on Google's Gemini AI to power Siri. So basically two giant rivals working together because Apple's own AI, well, fell behind. It's just really kind of non-existent.
And that's a really good way to put it too, I think. Apple hasn't really been in the AI game. They haven't been a big name in it. Like you got your I think it's XAI, you've got Anthropic, you've got Google from Alphabet making Gemini, all these different big names making AI. Apple's kind of just been sitting on the sidelines watching what it can be capable of.
Yeah, and that's not a very good place to be for an innovative company like Apple. Which is why I
was going to wonder, is it more of a conscious choice by them, or was it just we were too late to the game, so let's see what happens?
I tend to believe they were just too late to the game. I don't think it was a conscious choice. Yep. I mean, because Apple has a lot of eggs already in their basket. And I mean, so does Google, for that matter, but Google was able to do it, right?
Right.
With the Android phone, you can have conversations with Gemini, right, on your Android phone. You can't have those same kinds of conversations on your Apple phone.
Right. And, to give a little bit of an argument on that too, thinking about it, Apple has always been very privacy focused. They've always been very forward with your data is your data. What happens on iPhone stays on iPhone. Everybody knows that saying. So, when you're kind of looking at Apple thinking about AI, there is a lot of privacy that has to be given to these AI, your calendar access, your email access. I think maybe Apple's been playing it a little bit safe because they don't want to overstep that boundary and cause some sort of privacy issue that they've always promised their customers.
Yeah, that could be too. Yeah, you make a good point, Adam.
And how much of it is them looking at themselves as more of a hardware company than a software company as well?
True,
right?
True. Absolutely true. And so, one thing that a lot of people may not realize is Google already pays Apple billions of dollars. I mean, billions to be the default search on the iPhone, right? So when you do a search on using Siri, it's actually using Google to do that search and give you the results. So now Google's AI may run inside Siri, which is, not really doing right now, but they're working on it. That's proof that in tech, today's rival is tomorrow's partner.
Yeah. And, that's something that's actually, I think, a really good point on it as well is Apple and Google are such polar opposites of one another. Apple wants all of your information to be your information. They don't care about it. They don't want to collect it.
That's right.
Google is the entire opposite of that. They want to know everything. They want to know, what comforter you use at home, that kind of information.
Yes.
So
it's marketing.
Yeah. So seeing, Apple and Google try to get together on this, I bet there's going to be some butting heads of what information really is collected and kind of phoned home. There's got to be something that Google has to be able to collect at the end of the day.
Well, true. And then we'll see in this Worldwide Developers Conference, this kicks off Monday,
right,
June 8th. And we'll see if they announce this marriage finally, right, between Google and Apple and getting Siri more conversational as opposed to just, hey, asking it to do something and it comes back and does it. Right. So
it's
kind of cool.
It's a very basic assistant, just like how Google Assistant used to be. And I remember it was actually, almost felt groundbreaking when you could ask your Google Assistant something and it actually was able to live look up the answer. That was like the first step we had towards these generalized assistants before Gemini came into the mix.
That's right.
So, and I think moving towards that is again, a really good end goal for Apple. Getting an assistant that is more than just an assistant, something that can help, find a text message that's been buried, finding an email that you lost, things like that. But again, the privacy is just the biggest question to me.
You bring up a really, really good point because with Apple, you're right. Has always been about the privacy.
Yeah.
Right. And with Google, no, it hasn't been. With Google, it's been, let's gobble up all the information that we can find about you.
Right.
So we can use that in marketing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, right?
And that's a good way to put it is marketing. Because just the other day, I remember talking to one of my family members about, we had a couple of bananas sitting in the kitchen that were just a little brown.
Right.
And we're like, hey, maybe we should make up some banana bread. And I kid you not, the next thing my mom saw on her tablet was a recipe for banana bread.
Well, of course, that's what's going on. And so maybe Apple's finally deciding that, hey, you know what, we're throwing the towel here a little bit, because this is what they are perceiving that people want.
Yeah.
So that to have this conversational relationship with Siri, as opposed to just asking Siri something and getting a simple response back, right?
I also feel maybe it's a little bit of pressure too, because I can't imagine Apple just wants to collect information because of how much they push privacy for their users. But again, you see these AIs like Gemini, Grok, Claude expanding in their capabilities.
Oh, big time.
It puts Apple in a very big shadow.
It does.
Very big.
It does. And the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure is on. And to Greg's point, is that, is Apple a hardware company? I think they're more hardware, right, than they are software. But, they need that software piece to make it work.
Yeah, it's a big piece of the puzzle for them of having, an AI assistant, because it makes them relevant. It makes them keep up with, their software, because if you ship a new version of macOS and it's still got that very basic Siri in it, there's no point in using it when you can just download Grok or Claude and just use that instead.
Good point.
So, I think it is also to focus on, staying in the Apple environment, because a lot of users right now that have Apple devices, iPhones, iPads, Macs, are downloading these other AIs because Siri just can't handle it.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
And you would think it would be able to in today's environment, at least by now.
Yeah.
Right? Because so they're just shows how far behind they are. And so that's another reason. I don't think it's like on purpose. I think it's just because they just haven't been able to get there yet.
And it's part of a long series of issues with Siri recently. And talking about a long series, it's now kind of the start of the long goodbye for Tim Cook, right?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, this is going to be Tim Cook's last conference through Apple. He's stepping down as CEO. He took over from Steve Jobs, directly from Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it went from Steve Jobs to Tim Cook. Talk about pressure to make something work and to keep going and to keep growing. And I happen to believe Tim Cook has done a wonderful job with Apple. It'd be hard to say he hasn't done a super job with Apple, because look at how far they've come, have advanced even further ever since he took over from Steve Jobs. Because let's face it, Steve Jobs was the major innovator in that whole company, and the guy that just pushed things forward. And so that was a big shoes to fill for Tim Cook, and he did it. And he's, so the new CEO is coming along here on, I think, September 1st is when Tim Cook is actually stepping down. And so we'll see if John Turnus is his name, will be able to fill those big shoes of both Steve Jobs and Tim Cook's when John Turnus takes over September 1st. Now, John Turnus with Apple was more on the hardware side, right? So he was the hardware guy.
Right.
And so a lot of hardware development things that he was responsible for at Apple, which kind of further complicates the whole Siri thing, because he's, to me, I mean, because he's not from the software side of Apple.
But he was also the one that always liked to push the boundaries a little bit with the designs of Apple devices. I specifically remember the explosion of the iPhone forehead with that cutout notch.
That's right.
At the top with the iPhone. I think it was the iPhone X. Yeah. And that was like, like it shook the ground a little bit, but it didn't come off wrong in the end of the day. It was just a step forward into pushing the boundaries, changing things, and I think that's what this push with Siri is going to be. Is with the transition to a new CEO, they're gonna hit the ground hard and hopefully running.
Well, yeah, and hopefully John Turnus can, get the ball rolling for them on the Siri side and get this stuff integrated so the iPhone will have true AI. But hey, folks, that's all we have time for this segment. When we come back after the break, we're going to talk about your computer. Is your computer AI ready? We're going to talk all about that, and I think you'll be surprised.
And if it's not, we know where you can get one. Refresh Computers. That's right? You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Levitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, we'd love to hear it. Use an open mic feature inside the WDBO app. And now, back to David and Adam.
All right. Thanks, Greg. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. Let me take this opportunity to remind you that you can listen to the show in its entirety by going to refreshcomputers.net. Click on that podcast link in the upper right-hand corner of the page. And because if you miss anything about the new Apple Worldwide Developers Conference that's going to be starting this Monday, and some of the things they're going to be talking about, we talked about Tim Cook's eventual retirement in September, and who's going to be taking over the reins for him. And we talked a lot about how Siri needs to get that AI upgrade, and they're using Google to help them do that, supposedly. We'll see if that's really going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you missed any of that, you can catch up by clicking on that podcast link on the homepage at refreshcomputers.net. Better yet, scroll down to the bottom of any page at refreshcomputers.net, put in your email address, and just click enter, and then you will be able to receive notification whenever a new show is ready to be listened to, along with bullet points about what we're talking about on the show. In this segment, we want to talk about your computer. Is your computer AI ready? Well, you'll be surprised. If you're running Windows 11 with today's AI environment, yes.
Yep.
Pretty much.
That's it. That's the answer.
And that's the end of our segment. We can.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to put that out there. You don't need some fancy AI generated CPU, this kind of stuff.
No 200 gigs of RAM, nothing like that.
No, to run today's AI. Why? Because the AI processing is done in the cloud. It's not done on your computer. So when you ask AI something, you open up ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, your Gemini, Copilot, and Microsoft, any of these, when you're using that, your computer resources aren't being tied up.
Right.
Only to the extent the same as it would be if you're typing a note on your computer. Because once you hit submit, that goes out to the cloud. The cloud does all the major computing to get your answer, and that's why it takes it a little while sometimes to get a response back from one of your AI inquiries, is because that cloud process is going on, and it will deliver that to your computer. So
as long as the computer has access to the internet, as far as that goes,
right?
That's a major thing. Is Windows 10, they drop security updates, and there are some websites that have already dropped support on Windows 10 because it is a security risk.
That's right. So if you're running a Windows 10 computer, stop if you're connected to the internet. Yeah. If you're not connected to the internet, okay, Windows 10 away.
Exactly.
Just keep on going.
We've talked the same thing about like Windows XP and Windows 7.
That's right.
Windows 10 is unfortunately fallen in the same basket now.
It is. And we still have people come in with those Windows XP machines from ages ago. Why? Because those machines are running a piece of hardware.
But if you get addicted to the starting up chime for a Windows XP machine, right?
That's right.
So that's the whole point of it.
So I think you might be onto something, Greg. Yeah. So it's okay as long as you're not connecting to the internet.
Right.
If you're connecting to the internet, stop. Yeah. Just stop. Upgrade your computer to Windows 11. If you're not sure if your computer is upgradable, give us a call. That's one of the reasons the free tech support hotline is there. 407-478-8200. We can also help you take care of things that you may think are, this is because of AI, I'm using AI, but it's not. Your computer could be running slow. It might need a memory upgrade, a solid state drive repair, which we all do all that stuff there at Refresh Computers. So, bring it on in or give us a call first, 407-478-8200. Just tell us what's going on, and we'll be able to talk to you over the phone. And in a lot of cases, we get you going right over the phone.
Yeah, and a lot of times, too, is, over the phone, I'll direct people to our website, refreshcomputers.net, gives you our whole inventory there. And, right now we're even doing free shipping on orders over $300.
That's right.
So, because most people don't need, this $1,500 brand new computer.
They don't. Oh, no. And so you can save a lot of money. You can buy a quality refurbished Refresh computers for a third of the price of a brand new one. It's going to last you just as long, if not longer.
Coming up next, we're going to talk a little AI and what it's doing to your electric bill. and what Florida's actually doing about it. We'll have more on that coming up next. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Levitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200, or if you have a comment during the show, go and use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You can also check out the website at refreshcomputers.net or stop in at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, for the men themselves, David Levitt and Adam Littlefield.
All right. Thanks, Craig. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. In this segment, we're going to talk about, why your electric bill might be climbing. It's creeping up there and more than creeping up there. It's like exploding up there, right?
It's not just the heat of this summer kicking up your AC. It's not even that simple anymore.
So a lot of it has to do, well, I'm going to say some of it has to do, retract that. Maybe not a lot. Not as much as people may be thinking or claiming, but it does make an impact. I'll give it that. Or the AI data centers. So, but first, I want to get into the difference between a data center, which guess what? Data centers have been around for decades.
Oh, yeah.
Decades. And guess what else? Data centers have always been a big consumer of electricity. Yep. They take a massive amount of electricity to operate. They do. They just do. And they always have been. So, your ability just to connect to the internet and be able to look up things before AI, let's just forget AI just for a second. Your ability to do whatever you're doing on the internet is because of data centers that have been around all over the country.
Right.
And I think of the new Hostime data center going up right there in Maitland. That's been under construction for 5 years, 6 years. I'm not sure how many years, but a long time before AI data centers were going to be prevalent. Right. So it's been under construction, and I'm not sure what their delays are, what caused their delays going on, and why it's been delayed. I'm sure there's reasons for it. I just don't know what they are.
It's probably the same reasons why the I-4 eyesore has taken so long to finish construction.
I don't think that's what it is, honestly.
I don't know.
But I think the I-4 eyesore is more of it's a religious organization,
right,
that operates that facility, or the AI or the data center, which I would think maybe is becoming an AI data center. I don't know if you can become a data center today without being an AI data center.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So
are you fulfilling a purpose at that point? Yeah.
Right. Right. So the only difference, or not the only, but a major difference between an AI data center and what the regular data centers are that we've seen for decades now are the graphics cards that are going into the AI data center that the regular data centers just didn't have.
Right.
They just didn't need so much. I mean, they had, but not so much, because AI uses a lot of the NVIDIA-based graphics cards, and other companies also. Not NVIDIA is not the only one, but if you wonder why NVIDIA is rapidly becoming one of the biggest, if not the biggest company in the world right now, market cap wise anyway, it's because of their AI video, basically video cards that are being used because they process so much faster. They process data so much quicker than regular CPUs do.
Yeah. And NVIDIA's they've been pushing a lot of AI for the last couple of years with their Blackwell cards, which are what mainly these AI data centers use. But even their consumer cards, they've started using AI algorithms for frame generation.
Right.
So the graphics card generates one frame, and the AI generates the next 3 frames.
Well, and let's just go back to and the comparison too between regular data centers and AI data centers. How long has Netflix been around? Right. Couple decades? No, at least a decade, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But they've been around for many, many years before AI. Whenever you watch Netflix, guess what? you're going through a data center.
Yep.
You know, the same thing with YouTube, the same thing with anything that you do online, you're going through a data center. So to start screaming that, AI data centers are drinking up all our water and gobbling up all our electricity, nah, I mean, it's not any more than it has already been, really, for data centers.
Right.
And let's get into the water aspect. People are afraid of, it's the Florida aquifer can't handle that. Bull. I mean, a golf course uses more water than a data center, than an AI data center. A golf course does, but you know what? A golf course uses mostly reclaimed water, right?
Right.
And
repurposed water. And the AI data center, they don't need all that water. So I don't know where this is coming from, Greg.
Well,
but you can,
right. So I think a lot of it is, and some of the older data centers for sure used a bit of more of like that evaporative cooling system where it really did. It used up a lot of water. But now with modern cooling systems, it is very greatly reduced. For sure.
It's greatly reduced because they're basically reusing whatever water.
It's a closed system
using.
At that point.
It's a closed system, right?
And a lot of them use coolant, essentially, like what you use in your car when you have
antifreeze.
Exactly. Yeah. So to really increase that cooling capability, and it lasts a lot longer. Now there are concerns, when you've got to change that out. You got to change your coolant every now and again in your car.
You do.
You got to change out the coolant in those coolant systems to keep them efficient. What do you do with that product? That's another topic.
That's a whole other topic.
But it's also it's all a part of the full environmental concern aspects between what has been an AI blow up. We have seen. I know you mentioned that we've had data centers in the past, but we've seen a vast increase in the number of these centers going up around the country, right?
Yeah. Which is why I think the bill that Governor DeSantis just signed into law, pretty good bill, pretty good law, because it requires the data centers, the big data centers, to pay the full cost of their electricity and infrastructures that they need, not to pass it on to households.
Right.
Now, you may be thinking, well, duh. Should they be? I mean, yeah, me too.
But there were municipalities that were using, hey, we have access to power. You don't have to pay for it.
That's right.
We'll pass it on to other people.
They're using it as incentives to have the data center be built, and no more of that.
And a good point on that too is, a lot of these newer data centers are, like you said, Greg, closed loops on their cooling, so they're not actively pulling from the main reservoir that your water is coming from as well. But we do have a lot of legacy AI data centers that are still constantly hooked in, that have not been retrofitted to be a closed loop, that, have shown some municipalities to maybe cause a drop in water pressure for some people. But again, it's as the technology has evolved, these AI data centers are getting better. And
they are.
And, again,
and more efficient.
Exactly. And I know a lot of these large AI data centers, they can use like anywhere between like 100 to 500 megawatts of power. That's a lot of power. That's more than a small city. Definitely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is also an upscale happening of our power generation across the country that I'm sure is helping offset that issue. But again, like you were saying, the bill is offsetting that cost, so it's not being put into our laps, the consumer laps, because this data center is being built.
Well, because let's face it, I mean, a lot of the power companies, Duke Energy for one, the part of their structure for billing you is the cost of doing their business, right? And so when these AI data centers are allowed to handicap the big power companies, because now suddenly they got to build up all this infrastructure to be able to power these data centers. Some of that cost was being passed on to every citizen in the state, and that's not good. And that's what this bill does. It eliminates that. Now, kudos to Florida Power and Light, because they already have a rate structure that makes these large customers pay 100% of the new power generation that their projects require, which should, and again, that's another moment. It should just be happening anyway, instead of having everybody else share in the cost. And it just hasn't, been going on completely in the state of Florida. So that's why I kind of like this. It's SB 484 is the law. And I'm glad that Governor DeSantis signed that into law to make sure that we're not paying for all these data centers. Because to your point, Greg, there is an influx of data centers being built now because they are needed more with AI. So much of us are using the AI tools. We just need more data centers.
Right.
So it's not has anything, it's not like we've never had data centers. We've had them for decades.
Right.
But now we just have more and more sophisticated with higher consumption of electricity type of machinery inside these data centers. They take up, these video cards that we talked about from NVIDIA. They're power, they're power hungry resources.
They are, yeah.
Inside a computer. Even you look at your regular gaming computer, the video card inside your computer requires more power in that computer than any other component in your computer.
Yeah, check out that power supply and
That's
see
right.
what numbers it's running.
With a recent upgrade I did to mine, getting just one of NVIDIA's consumer cards, I had to upgrade my power supply up to a 1200 watt. Because the graphics card alone, I think, is pulling about 600, 800 watts alone.
The graphics card in a gaming computer takes more power than any other component in your computer.
Yeah.
Period. By far. By far. And so you just multiply that if you think of these data centers that are using these kinds of graphics cards in their data centers, but they're using thousands of them, right? Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands in a data center. That's a lot of power that these data centers need. So they are consuming more power than the standard data center that we've had around for decades.
And even leading up to this with the AI revolution that we've talked a lot about and how that's created more of this need for consumption. We've talked about electric cars as well, putting a strain on the power grid that wasn't expected. The power grid in the United States has long needed an upgrade. I believe that this will be a catalyst towards that. And we've talked in the past a little bit about Elon Musk's investment in those micro nuclear power plants. I wonder if we're going to start seeing a little bit more of that conversation again. President Trump just recently signed an executive order for $700 million to go to retrofitting some of these older coal-burning power plants to kind of increase their productivity.
Wow.
But I wonder if this is really going to kind of push back again that nuclear conversation that I'm always baffled why it doesn't get more play. I understand there are the concerns with the nuclear, but overall, it's been massively safe.
Safe, cleaner. Right.
It kind of checks boxes for both sides, right? If you're looking at it as a political issue, it kind of checks the boxes on both sides.
I would think so. And you're right, Greg. We do need a major power grid upgrade in this country. It's talk about ancient technology. That's what we're running on.
A lot of my research I've done, because I'm big on nuclear energy. Like that's the push I want for the whole world to just adapt and move to. There are a lot of things that hold, a lot of people back, and it's thinking way back to the Chernobyl incident. That scared and caused a lot of
3
problems.
Mile Island.
Yeah. It scared a lot of people into, thinking that it can happen again. And there's also the concern of just the waste. Nuclear waste is very hard to manage. It's got a half-life that's, going to outlive me, definitely. It's not something we can just jettison into space and just ignore.
That's right. Yeah,
that's an idea.
It's an idea, but think about it.
Hey, SpaceX shares.
But you got, then you got, a rocket filled with millions of tons of nuclear fuel. If that blows up in the stratosphere,
we saw what happened with Blue Origin here
exactly.
last week. There's still risks and concerns with space technology.
The what does SpaceX call it? The unplanned instantaneous disassembly or something like that.
Instead of calling it an explosion.
Right,
that's right.
But going back to the AI stuff, and this is something we've talked about before, and I think I want more news on this. Where is Elon Musk with putting AI data centers in space?
He's that's part of the IPO. That's part of the reason to generate all this money by going public with SpaceX is because he needs all this money to put those million satellites, which I believe he already got approval.
Yep, they've been approved. They've talked about lowering the orbit to be able to reduce latency for using certain of those new version 2, I believe it is, of those satellites. So it's a progress. It's progress. We're getting there.
It is. Yeah. I think it's going to happen, and it's soon too. And I think we're going to be not only doing our internet through satellite, but our phone conversations. It's the next logical thing.
We already have support in like the most modern smartphones to have emergency satellite usage. One day that could just turn into the regular usage.
Yeah.
So there's a lot up in the air, I think, right now with all of the stuff going on. But again, AI data centers, that's the biggest thing in the news right now. But it isn't really always as bad as it's been painted out to be.
I don't think so.
I know we touched on a lot in this segment. If you have anything that you'd like to say about AI data centers, nuclear power, or if you'd like to talk a little bit more about those tips to help save electricity, use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. We'd love to hear your comments. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO, 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Levitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore, and technician Adam Littlefield. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. You can also check out their website at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to David and Adam.
All right. Thanks, Greg. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. As usual, we had a lot of really cool techie stuff that we talked about today. I'm hoping that you enjoyed listening to what we had to talk about and maybe learn something from that as well. If you missed anything, you can go to refreshcomputers.net, click on that podcast link in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll be able to hear this show in its entirety. Better yet, scroll down to the bottom of any page at refreshcomputers.net, put in your email address. That's all we ask for, nothing else. Hit submit, and you will be notified when a new show is published and you're able to listen to it. And then email notification will have bullet points talking about or indicating what we're going to be talking about on that podcast. Our radio show turned into a podcast is basically what it is. So in this segment, we wanted to talk about a really cool Windows tip that you may or may not be aware of, right? It's the superpower copy paste mode.
Yeah. This is something that when I discovered it, and I mean it, this is something that was really like almost life-changing for using a computer for me, because the normal that everybody knows is you can hit Control-C to copy,
right,
and you Control-V to paste.
Right.
But what about Windows-C and Windows-V?
Yeah.
Ever heard of that?
So this is copy paste with history. So how many times have you copied something and then you pasted it, and then you copied something else, and then you went and you pasted that, and then you had an opportunity to paste the first thing that you copied,
right?
And it's like, oh darn, I overwrote what I copied by copying something else, right? Well, you can still paste that first thing,
right?
That second thing, that third thing, that fourth thing, and so on that you copied by using the Windows key plus V, right? Instead of the Control key plus V when you go to paste. So when you do it for the first time, you'll get a little indicator asking, do you want to enable this feature?
Called
right?
clipboard history.
Clipboard history feature. And of course, you just say, yeah. And so after that, every time that you copy something, it remembers all the things that you've copied. I'm not sure how far back it goes, maybe at least 10.
I haven't found a max for it yet, but I can tell you right now that I've reached over 30 things copied, and I can scroll through the list, click on something I copied 8 hours ago, and it just pastes it like nothing.
And that's what always bothers me with copy paste is I'm like, I need this thing from a little while ago because I've done the thing,
right,
and then it didn't work, so I need to start all over again or something like that. So this is a great tip. I did not know about this one going into this episode. So to see this, that's a great tip.
This was something even that I used once at the store, and our store manager saw me pull it up. He goes, wow, in the 16 years I've worked here, I never knew that was a feature.
Yeah. It's crazy that it's something that, and it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
It's been around since Windows 11's been out. And actually, Windows 10 had this feature, so...
Well, that answers the question, like, what do you do with the Windows button now? Because that's always been a question I think that so many people have.
Right.
Like, what does this button even do instead of just opening up the start menu?
And there's so many other shortcuts you can use with the Windows key that I've been learning that just it really, really speeds things up. It does.
I tell you what, a little bit of homework for your AI tool. Get your favorite AI tool out and ask it for all the Windows functions, the Windows key functions. And you'll be surprised and you'll be amazed and you'll be happy that you did, because there's all kinds of cool things. We had a whole show, Greg, once, like 3 years ago, on the Windows key and all the things that it could do. We had at least a whole segment anyway. And there's so many things. It's amazing. And
yeah.
So, and here's another Windows key bonus tip, right? Hit the Windows key plus the dot or the period, right? And it opens the emoji and symbol picker. So it's really cool for like if you just want to drop an emoji into something
right.
that you're in, just hit the Windows key plus the period or the dot.
It also has all the legacy ASCII emojis as well.
That does. So it's pretty cool. So listen, folks, about all we're going to have time for today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning because we have a whole new show and all kinds of cool stuff to talk about. If you missed anything today, you can go to refreshcomputers.net, click on that podcast link and hear the show in its entirety. And so this is David Levitt signing off for this Saturday. We'll be talking to you again tomorrow morning.